The quest for objective truth often leads into the chilled, silent corridors of official archives, where rows of steel cabinets, painted the somber gray of institutional inertia, stand sentinel over decades of governmental secrets.
These subterranean rooms are places where time seems to slow, caught in the stagnant air and the faint, pervasive odor of aging paper and metallic dust. Here, history is not a fluid narrative, but a series of sealed containers, each drawer a tomb holding the brittle remnants of critical moments.
Moments where the public explanation diverged violently from the private reality.
The 5 classified files we examine are not merely records, they are visceral challenges to the established public record. Dossiers that rip open the seams of institutional history, revealing the deliberate architecture of strategic omission.
They show that silence is often a manufactured commodity, and truth a negotiated casualty of management and political expediency.
Our journey begins deep within the vault, in the temperature-controlled gloom where documents dating back to the height of global tension are preserved against the ravages of time. The air here is thin and carries the ghost of paranoia, fitting for File 1, the Cold War intelligence failure.
This dossier concerns a critical surveillance collapse that occurred in the tense autumn of 1968, an event publicly attributed to overwhelming external pressure and superior foreign counterintelligence capabilities.
The physical file is housed in a heavy, stiff manila folder, its edges softened and frayed by countless openings and closures. Inside, the documents are brittle, yellowed vellum sheets that crackle faintly when handled.
The ink is often dried, faded black, suggesting the urgency with which the original reports were typed on manual machines, whose sharp, rhythmic clatter defined the era.
The official debriefing, a thick sheaf of carbon copies, meticulously lays out the chronology, the jamming frequencies used, the logistical failures, the relentless, suffocating external threat that supposedly crippled the entire regional operation. Yet, scattered among these official reports are smaller, more volatile pieces of evidence. These are the ancillary memoranda, the field agent assessments never intended for mass circulation, the handwritten marginalia that constitutes the file's explosive core. These notes are scrawled in a dense, sloping blue ink, starkly contrasting the formal typeface. One particular margin note, adjacent to a section detailing the supposed overwhelming foreign electronic warfare capability, bears the unmistakable, forceful underlining of a senior analyst's distress. The notation reads, in curt, angry capital letters, "Not EW. Internal drainage. See Wessex logs." The Wessex logs, when retrieved from an adjacent subdivision of the file, detail a systemic failure of secure communications that was gradual and intermittent, originating not at the perimeter, but deep within the network's core. The classified truth meticulously documented here points away from a spectacular foreign triumph and toward a far more insidious defeat: deliberate internal sabotage. The evidence includes truncated security camera footage showing unauthorized access to critical switching nodes, and audit trails of key personnel accessing systems far outside their mandated operational hours, coinciding precisely with the moments of signal deterioration. The internal analysis concluded that the intelligence structure did not collapse under external duress. It was meticulously and deliberately compromised from within, a calculated betrayal that was strategically sanitized for public consumption to avoid a massive confidence crisis within the governmental infrastructure itself. The atmosphere of 1968 demanded a narrative of resilient defense against foreign aggression, not the corrosive specter of domestic treachery. And the official history was constructed accordingly, burying the chilling documentation of treason beneath layers of plausible external defeat. We move now to a file that deals not with global strategy, but with the mundane tragedy of structural failure, the kind of collapse that costs lives and trust on a deeply local level. File 2, the Infrastructure Collapse File, details a major civic disaster where a critical piece of urban infrastructure failed catastrophically.
An event publicly framed as an unpredictable confluence of stress, age, and exceptional environmental conditions.
The file is stored in heavy archival boxes designed to protect engineering plans. It smells of aged toner, faintly of dried ammonia from old blueprint processing, and the metallic tang of oxidized stables. The central evidence consists of dense sheaves of engineering schematics, vast, unwieldy rolls of paper that require a large drafting table to examine. These schematics, marked with the careful, meticulous lines of draftsmen long retired, are crosshatched and dimensioned, but it is the annotations that speak volumes. Specific sections of critical load-bearing elements are repeatedly circled in bright fluorescent orange pencil. Notations indicating stress fractures, anomalous deflection readings, and material fatigue exceeding design tolerance. Interspersed with the blueprints are thin onion skin copies of highly pressurized memo transcripts. These memos, dating back several fiscal quarters prior to the collapse, document a fierce internal struggle between the project engineers, whose professional duty demanded immediate, comprehensive repair, and high-level management. The engineers' memos are desperate, filled with technical jargon describing the velocity of degradation and the imminent threat to human safety. One specific memo, typed on tissue-thin paper with the impression of furious typing, warns that the structural stability threshold would be breached within 18 to 24 months, absent immediate, extensive, and capital-intensive remediation. The management replies, preserved in subsequent transcripts, are cold, fiscally focused, and damningly explicit. They repeatedly prioritize budget constraints, utilizing evasive language like optimization of resource allocation and deferral of non-critical capital expenditure. These structural integrity warnings were silenced by finance, leaving only the grim red stain of prioritized profit margins. The final internal report, sealed away, includes testimony from middle management explicitly confirming that presenting the need for emergency funding would have delayed key profit milestones and triggered internal investigations into departmental efficiency. The public explanation spoke of unforeseen erosion and an act of nature. The file reveals an act of accounting where human safety was relegated beneath the ledger lines of immediate economic gain. The contrast between the cold precision of the engineering data and the callous abstraction of the budgetary decisions paints a chilling picture of calculated risk-taking where the public was unknowingly the collateral. The journey pivots away from steel and concrete to the fragility of the human body, with File 3, The Forgotten Plague. This dossier is perhaps the most visually unsettling, dealing with an early, highly virulent febrile outbreak that occurred in a remote, underserved region. The public announcement, quickly disseminated and subsequently minimized, labeled the event a spike in common seasonal influenza, assuring the populace that the known public health infrastructure was robust enough to manage the localized surge. This file is preserved in a medical research station archive, stored in climate-controlled lockers that smell faintly of ethanol and sterile synthetic materials. The reports are housed in heavy, plasticized folders designed to withstand decontamination protocols. The most compelling evidence within are the high-contrast medical photographs and field reports compiled by the initial response teams, who recognized immediately that they were confronting something far outside the expected pathology of influenza. The photographs are black and white, glossy, and intensely detailed, captured under harsh clinical lighting. They document not the diffuse respiratory distress of common flu, but specific, aggressive dermatological and systemic symptoms. There are images detailing the rapid onset of a specific blotchy petechial rash spreading like ink spilled beneath the skin, alongside documentation of severe ocular hemorrhaging.
These visual markers are pathologically distinct from any known seasonal strain. The raw data logs accompanying the photographs show a terrifying velocity of viral replication and an extremely high case fatality rate, particularly among young adults, a demographic generally robust against standard influenza. The field reports, often handwritten in tired, hurried script by researchers working under extreme duress, detail the desperate attempts to isolate and characterize the agent. They use the internal code designation Systemic Febrile Agent X. One particularly distressed passage describes the agent's unique mechanism for overwhelming the host immune response in a matter of hours, far exceeding the typical incubation and progression period of even the most aggressive pandemic flu strains. The classified pathology review concluded that Agent X possessed genetic markers and cellular affinity that placed it entirely outside the known family of circulating human influenza viruses,
possibly representing a novel zoonotic spillover event of exceptional virulence.
The institutional decision to dismiss this outbreak publicly as severe influenza was an act of tactical information control, designed to prevent widespread panic and market disruption, while containment efforts were silently mobilized.
The official narrative functioned as a psychological firewall.
The classified reports, however, reveal the extreme measures taken behind the scenes. The establishment of militarized quarantine zones, the rapid deployment of experimental antiviral compounds, and the disposal protocols for the deceased, all actions wholly disproportionate to a routine flu season. The file exposes the moral calculation made by public health authorities, that a temporary deception was preferable to the societal chaos that the unvarnished truth about a novel, rapidly lethal plague would unleash. Our focus shifts dramatically now, moving from epidemiology and infrastructure to the intricate, hidden movements of capital, revealed in File 4, the Financial Black Budget. This dossier concerns the existence and operation of a shadow economy running parallel to conventional governmental oversight, a vast, unauthorized stream of expenditures that defies parliamentary scrutiny. The file is unlike the brittle documents of the Cold War or the harsh plastic of the medical records. It is embodied primarily in a single object, a thick, leather-bound ledger. The ledger is heavy, its cover a deep oxblood color, the leather smooth and cool to the touch, possessing the faint, luxurious scent of aged hides and high-quality paper. The edges of the pages are gilt, reflecting a fastidious, almost artistic approach to accounting that is sharply at odds with the illicit nature of the contents. Inside, the script is elegant, meticulous copperplate handwriting. Every entry is aligned with perfect precision, using black archival ink that has not faded despite the passage of time. This is the ledger of a shadow finance department, and its entries detail staggering, unauthorized expenditures channeled through an incredibly labyrinthine network of offshore accounts, shell corporations, and coded transfers. The structure of the ledger is designed for secrecy. It avoids conventional budget codes. Instead, transactions are logged under deliberately opaque descriptors like Special Operational Assets Maintenance, Contingency Acquisition Funds, and Trans-Jurisdictional Resource Mobilization. The scale of the documented transfers is breathtaking, showing hundreds of billions moved over a period of decades, entirely bypassing all public appropriations and audit requirements. The funds were seemingly self-sustaining, derived from undisclosed revenue streams and clandestine investments, creating a permanent, self-regulating financial entity operating outside the rule of law. The classified analysis reports accompanying the ledger, typed on expensive, heavy cotton paper, attempt to track the ultimate destination of the funds. They confirm that the monies were utilized for activities that could never survive public debate: deep penetration intelligence gathering, the maintenance of highly specialized, non-conventional military platforms, and, most damningly,
the effective indemnification of officials involved in politically sensitive operations that risked exposure.
The elegance of the script and the meticulous presentation of the data only amplify the moral weight of the document. The ledger is a testament to the fact that power, when completely unchecked, will inevitably create its own sovereign economy, funded by hidden sources,
and used to maintain the structures of secrecy itself. It illustrates that the government that reports its finances publicly is often merely the facade for the government that truly operates without restraint.
Finally, we arrive at File 5, the Aerial Anomaly File, which provides the most immediate, startling visual conflict with the public record.
This file pertains to an incident over the desolate western scrubland, where unusual aerial phenomena were observed, captured, and subsequently explained away through standard public relations channels. The official announcement, delivered with calm authority, stated that the observed phenomena were nothing more than high-altitude meteorological research balloons, disturbed by unusual wind patterns. This classified file is housed in an analysis compartment, smelling of cooled electronics and old photographic fixer. It contains large-format photographic prints and accompanying technical telemetry data. The primary visual evidence consists of grainy, high-altitude infrared imagery captured by a specialized surveillance platform designed to track atmospheric conditions and ballistic tests. The imagery is difficult to decipher initially, focusing on a vast arid landscape, alkali flats, dry ravines, and low-lying sagebrush stretching to the horizon. But at the center of the frames, captured across a rapid sequence of exposures, is the anomaly. The object's infrared signature is crucial. A standard meteorological balloon, even one with complex instrumentation, produces a diffuse, predictable heat signature, often distorted by the surrounding air envelope. This signature is different. It is sharp, defined, and geometric, a highly angular, metallic structure, exhibiting facets and lines that suggest deliberate design, rather than organic or conventional aerodynamic principles. The object does not exhibit the characteristic buoyancy or drift of a balloon. It shows controlled directional flight. The accompanying technical analysis reports are meticulous, detailing the instantaneous changes in velocity and direction. The trajectory data is the most compelling contradiction. The surveillance platform logged moments where the object executed severe 90-degree turns, at speeds that would generate instantaneous g-forces far exceeding the structural integrity of any known conventional aircraft, let alone the capabilities of a fragile balloon or drone. There is no corresponding kinetic signature, no visible exhaust, no sonic boom, no detectable thermal bloom associated with rapid propulsion. One section of the analysis, marked Level 6 Confidential, notes the object achieved a dead stop from extreme velocity in less than 0.8 seconds. The reports reveal the immediate and intense internal struggle within the observation command structure regarding the dissemination of this data. The decision to employ the meteorological research balloon cover story was a calculated act of institutional self-preservation. It was easier to peddle a scientifically banal explanation, however flimsy, than to admit that sophisticated, highly controlled technology operating within sovereign airspace was performing maneuvers that invalidated existing public knowledge of physics and aerodynamics. To acknowledge the truth of the file would require an admission of critical vulnerability, forcing a public debate on national security and technological parity that institutional structures were simply unwilling to navigate. The high-altitude infrared imagery, therefore, was categorized not as evidence of the unknown, but as a severe political liability, necessitating immediate neutralization via disinformation. The cold silence of the archives holds these 5 truths, each one a testament to the powerful impulse of institutions. The Cold War dossier shows internal weakness, masked by external blame.
The infrastructure file reveals ethical compromise, prioritized over human life. The forgotten plague documents medical truth, suppressed for social stability. The financial ledger exposes a shadow sovereign power, operating outside all checks.
And the aerial anomaly file illustrates the deep discomfort
Of systems confronted with phenomena
they cannot control or readily explain. Collectively, these dossiers reveal the careful, deliberate architecture of strategic omission.
the calculated decision, repeated across departments and generations,
To trade inconvenient, complex,
or destabilizing reality for the comforting, simpler veneer of an official story. The documents remain, preserved not merely as records of the past,
but as a chilling blueprint
for how power consistently chooses silence over accountability. The chill in the archive air is merely the residual coldness
of truths deliberately left unsaid.